What witty things did God inspire? I like Proverbs. Solomon was always an inspiration to me. I liked his wisdom. And Proverbs is just filled with a lot of instruction. Proverbs 8:12, the Word of God says, I, wisdom, dwell with prudence to find out the knowledge of witty what? Inventions. That's interesting. There are many inventions today that didn't exist before. The ancient men, they didn't need them. But God has raised up men with inventive faculties and have provided time-saving, labor-saving machines. And I believe we would do well to use them. I want to share my testimony on how I started taking notes. When I first started, I was like, oh, got to be a Berean. Let me grab a random scratch piece of paper wherever I can find it, and let me start taking notes on what the preacher's talking about. And that was so helpful. But I just found that as I'm trying to take notes, the preacher would be like saying out a verse, and I wrote it down, and then I'm trying to look, and he's already read the verse. I'm like, oh no, I couldn't hear what he said. And that was a little discouraging. So then I tried to look it up first, and then I was just having difficulties. But I persevered. I'm like, I want to be a Berean. I want to be more noble than Thessalonians. So then I upgraded, and I got this journal. And in the journal, I just dedicated it to Bible study notes. And anytime that I study with people, I always encourage them, grab a journal, grab a notebook, and just dedicate it for our studies. Everything that you learned, whenever the Bible is open, just take notes and use this. And whatever subject you study, just write it in your journal. And I was at a camp meeting. When I started taking notes, my understanding of the Bible skyrocketed. It changed everything, because then I could access them. I could review them. I could be established in the truths that I believe or don't believe. And as I'm going in my closet and I'm praying to God, I'm like, Lord, I heard this message and I have these notes. Is it true? Then God's able to confirm or deny what I'm learning. And it was tremendous help. And I went to a camp meeting, and I saw that there was a man over there. And I said, we were having a discussion. He's like, oh, I really like that. And he took this verse, and he had this little laptop. It was a netbook, and it was about the size of a Bible. And he added the verse. He went to all of these topics, and he clicked one that we were talking about. He scrolled through some notes, and I'm like, whoa. And he added the verse. And I'm like, what did I just see? And so I left that camp meeting, scratching my head thinking, like, I need something like that. And so what I ended up doing is going to Best Buy, and I got a netbook. I found out the program he was using was eSword, and I was like, wow, eSword is amazing because it has notes. And just like I was taking subjects in each of these verses, on every subject, I was just a new page. I then started to do that on eSword, and it was really organized. It was all there together, and from that point forward, everything was just all in one program. It's an online Bible, or not online, but it's an electronic Bible. They say it's a sword of the Spirit with an electronic edge. That's what it is, and then I just started to bring that little netbook around where I go, and I do always be ready to give an answer. Just anytime, pull up notes on a subject, and someone's talking about like faith, and I'm like, oh, let me pull up my faith document, and then we can have a conversation together. And as I learn from you, I'm going to add stuff to my faith document. Then we talk about evangelism, like, well, let me pull up my evangelism document and let's carry on a conversation. And that was really, really helpful. But then I found that it was harder to share with other people, because different people would ask me like, hey, what does the Bible say about this? And I found myself giving so many different Bible studies where before I couldn't do that with that because I'd lose my pages. I couldn't really do it with that because sometimes I forget it at home or I travel and it's not there, or you lose the notebook. But then people would ask me a subject, I'd pull out the document, we can go through a Bible reading together. And that was really helpful. And through that experience, having it so easily accessible, I was able to give an answer. And through the repetition, you start to memorize the verses that you teach. you hear the saying, repetition deepens the impression. Well, expression also deepens the impression. And that was so helpful, but it got to a point where I'm like, okay, let me just send you a document. You can go through it yourself, and you have questions, then come and contact me. And it was hard to export them. So then I upgraded to something called Google Docs. And from there, it allowed me to access my notes on my phone, my laptop, on your laptop, in Idaho, in Washington, in Mexico. Anywhere that I go, all my notes are there. And a matter of fact, I just this week, in some of the Bible studies that I've done this week, I've used notes that I took in high school. And it was because of these two programs. And so I'm able to access that. How many of you have journals from your high school that are easily accessible all over where you travel or in your pocket? And I mean, that's powerful. And so I just find that I prefer to write down things and to handwrite it. My memory recalls things better. But I just find that practically speaking, in getting the gospel to the world and being available and ready to be able to share with others, I personally have found that having some digital notes has been a huge blessing. And if I've ever needed a physical copy, I could just print it. Or I can save paper and trees and send a link and publish book after book after book on all sorts of different notes digitally. So that has been a huge blessing that has changed the way that I do everything. Really, it's like technology is like a vehicle. It just helps you to go further faster. And I recognize that many of us, we weren't born in the same age like me. I was never born in a world that had not the internet. Like, think about that. And a lot of the young people aren't either. And so we hear that, well, I'm just not a technological person, and I understand. But I wasn't born with the ability to drive a car, but I learned. That was something that I saw that it could help me to do something I wanted faster. And instead of walking over here, I drove 16 hours to be here with each of you from California. And so there are things that we're able to learn. So I would just encourage to use electronic Bible. Try it out. It's really life-changing. And if you want some suggestions for an Android, how many people have an Android in here? Okay. Wow, I would expect there to be more. There's something that's called MySword that I found to be very helpful. I use it for like 6 years or so. That's an Android. Who has an iPhone? Wow, that's actually surprising. So on an iPhone, I use a Bible app called eSword. I recently switched after 11 years of being on Android. But so that's what I would recommend there. It's very helpful. And whether you're using Windows or Mac, eSword is also available for the laptop, and it's a really powerful tool. And we use it as we're doing Bible studies over at the Wrights family. Just put it up on the screen. It's been very helpful.